Thanks for the opportunity to stand here. And basically, I'm going to talk about Qwen models application and also something about the AI market in Japan. It's kind of a niche topic, but I think lots of you have already heard about lots of technological stuff right now. So I'll doing something not so technological. But then after my presentation, we'll have an exciting announcement with Tongyi Lab and also Alibaba Cloud. So let me just briefly introduce myself. I'm a CTO of Flux, and also I'm a researcher in Matsuo Lab in University of Tokyo. So today I'll talk about three things for the Japanese AI market and Qwen. First, I'll give a brief overview about the Japanese AI market. And then I'll introduce some interesting use cases like how Qwen is actually used in Japan. And the last thing, I'll try to talk about some of the AI opportunities in Japan, especially. So the first part, it's kind of simple. Like Japan is it's definitely not large enough compared to China or America, but still it's a good mid-sized market for AI, and it's growing steadily. And also for three different branches of the market, let's talk about enterprise adoption and government support and also academic stuff. So for the enterprise, actually, I used to do another panel talk yesterday, and I talk about the kind of Japanese enterprises lags behind in digital transformation stuff. So basically, they are pretty behind for digital usage and digital transformation, and as we call in Japan, DX. But right now, because lots of the people in the engineering field have become older and older in Japan. So there's a huge need for AI usage. And that's what we call 2025 digital cliff. So it's actually happening. So there's a huge push in Japan for enterprises to adopt AI use cases, which is actually unheard in the few decades before. And also there's another thing which is actually related to government, is called the AI Promotion Act. It's also interesting because I don't know what you imagine about lawmaking in Japan, but actually Japanese government really embraces the usage of AI. And they're trying to make, Japan is definitely not strong compared to China and America in AI development, but still they're trying to make their lawmaking environment really good for AI. So that's the AI Promotion Act. It's basically one of the laws directed by my professor. It's Matsuo Sensei, we call it, Matsuo Professor. And also, talk about more about job government support. We have this program. It's actually a GPU program from the government called GENIAC. It's that they will cover like over 90% of your GPU usage. So they will just, let startups and AI companies build their own fine-tuned models. Because in Japan, you don't have enough people and GPU to build a model from ground up. And also there's an organization called LLM.jp, which is led by the National Institute of Informatics. And it's a national institute on AI and digital research. And they have this branch called LLM.jp, and it's releasing one of the most authoritative AI benchmarks in Japanese. And also, I talk about lawmaking, and also to talk about more about the academic part is actually, Matsuo Lab is definitely one of the center of innovation of AI in Japan. And I have to say, most of the AI startups, so-called AI startups, are related with Matsuo Lab. So like, we have a really unique atmosphere in our, lab. And basically, our professor is saying, like, if you want to do AI, you have to start your own company. Just don't go to any large enterprises in Japan. So it's kind of interesting. So most of our students are starting our own company right now. And also, we see it's from Japan focusing on AI investment, AI applications recently. So it's pretty interesting. Before I talk more about how Qwen is used in Japan, let me just talk a little bit about how Japanese social acknowledgements about Qwen is currently just now. So you might heard about this Nikkei. Is one of the most famous business and economics newspaper in Japan. And I actually asked my friends from Alibaba Cloud Japan. They said this is not a sponsored article. So yeah, this is not a sponsored article. It's an article that's written by the newspaper themselves. And they basically said they have their own model score benchmark. And they said it's the Qwen 2.5 Max is ranked 6 It's basically, I think it's this May. And so I think like we can do better right now, maybe. And then basically what they're saying is the Qwen from Alibaba is becoming the foundation for Japanese AI. For Japanese companies, it's really hard for them to build model from scratch. So they have to use some open source model as their foundation. And I think right now the takeaway, the go-to option for that is Qwen. And based on that, let me just introduce some more cases. The first one is called, a listed company, an AR startup called Abeja. It's actually pretty famous in Japan. And they claim they built a reasoning model that surpassed the capability of GPT-4o. But it's actually based on QWQ32B. This project is actually pretty interesting. If you look at this project is actually funded by GENIAC, the government funding I mentioned. So you can see there are lots of government-funded fine-tuning projects based on Qwen starting to happen in Japan right now. And also there's another famous startup called ELIZA, is recently half acquired by a famous telecommunication company called KDDI in Japan. And they are actually a strong natural language processing company, used to be. But then after the emergence of a large language model, they start to transfer their roles from natural language processing to large language model. And now recently they released a reasoning model based on Qwen 2.5 instructor. So these are some nice use cases for famous AI startups utilizing Qwen in Japan. And not only famous startups are using this, it's actually, I'll show more cases about industry models. So this is actually an interesting one. I don't know whether some of you have heard of Preferred Networks. It's actually the largest startup in Japan. It's the largest unicorn in Japan based on valuation. And also they have this famous AI framework called Chainer. So back in the days, before PyTorch, we used to use Chainer to program neural networks. So Chainer is actually released by Preferred Networks. And they recently have built a medical large language model for Japanese medical data based on Qwen's 2.5 centobillion. So this is a nice showcase of the most famous AI startup adopting Qwen to use them for industrial use cases. And also there's a famous startup focusing on autonomous driving called Turing. And I think this startup is actually pretty much related with Toyota and other car makers in Japan. And they're actually using the vision language model. They have released their vision language model, and it's actually based on Qwen 2.5. So I read their release, and they said they compared the models with Qwen and other options, and they found Qwen is the most efficient and most accurate one, so they used Qwen. So these are some really nice showcases of how Qwen is actually pretty silently adopted by the Japanese market right now. And I'll talk more about the Japanese AI opportunity a little bit. So there are different aspects when you think about AI opportunity as a country in Japan. And one of the most interesting thing is because in Japan, there's a strange system called lifetime employment. Basically, there's not enough engineers inside the company. So there's a data set, only 70% of the engineers in the market are in-house engineers. Most of the engineers are outsourced. So most of 70% of the engineers are from an outside vendor, which is actually really unique only in Japan. And also because of that, there's not enough in-house experts. So this is definitely a problem, but that still poses a new chance for AI startups or AI companies to build AI-driven engineers and AI experts for large enterprises in Japan. Because there are, they have too many outsourcing vendors in Japan, and they are charging really a lot for these engineers. And also there's another thing, especially on generative AI. We are an AI solution provider and also an AI consulting firm in Japan. So I talk with lots of huge enterprises, CIOs, CDOs, and they all said they're really concerned about data leakage and cost and customizability. And also, they don't have enough engineers, so they don't have the engineer resource to do the maintenance. And I think the interesting thing is, if you look at data leakage and cost and customizability, most of the cases could be solved by using an open weight or open source model like Qwen. So I think that's the reason why Qwen really fits the Japanese market right now, especially for the enterprise, because they don't have enough engineering source. So they have to rely on some company like us to do the implementation and the consulting and the planning part. And so that's the reason why I think, like in Japan in the future, we have a huge chance to collaborate with Qwen and to make Qwen models definitely into more use cases for large enterprises in Japan. And that's basically my presentation here. And here's the exciting announcement from us with Alibaba Tongyi Lab.